my full videos, so as you know I make a lot of short videos, but this was one of my full-length videos and I thought, very interesting point. So my video was titled, "What's so appealing about psychopaths and why do we put these dangerous people in positions of power? Why do we do it, you know? What's so freaking appealing about them?" I'm trying not to swear as much. And it got me thinking, you know. And then his comment was, I might be paraphrasing, but I think I'm getting it right. He said, "I wish I was a psychopath so I didn't have to suffer this cruel world," or something along those lines. Anyway, I think I've nailed it, but I thought, oh, that's an interesting one. Let's dissect that further. We also had someone in the comments, Oscar, saying, you know, basically they were talking about love and what love really is, and he was saying it's not an emotion. And then saying, like, they're not all, like, psychopaths aren't all extraordinary beings, and they're not, you know, they really aren't. That's just what we see, the ones who make the headline for the extreme things they do. And Britannia in 1974 was saying he's not capable of feeling true love anyway, and to me sounds like you're severely depressed, where all your feelings are numb. So my heart goes out to you and get help. My best advice to you. I think you do feel things, but not good things, you know, and that's what you were kind of getting at, and you wouldn't have to suffer this cruel world. It's an interesting point, and you know, I definitely have to agree with you. It seems like there's a lot of fakeness, isn't there? A lot of bad people get ahead. Wouldn't it be nice to just not feel any guilt or remorse, but then you don't learn. I mean, I get weighed down with guilt and shame. I think they're important if you want to grow as a human, but I don't see the purpose of them. You know, I think they're such painful and toxic emotions. But then again, I think if we didn't feel them, we wouldn't grow, you know. Some of my behaviours that I feel the most shame for are the reason why I changed, you know. So would I have changed if I didn't feel guilt and shame? Probably not. And then talking about love, is love an emotion? Or it's not, but it's a great feeling. What love truly is to give of yourself, you know. People say it's one of the most powerful feelings that you can feel when you feel true love for someone. Unconditional now, which means I don't just love you because you buy me a fancy gift, you know. I love you no matter what.
Sorry. Oh.
Good boy. And Britannia, 1974, I understand what you're getting at. Because you're saying there's like a lot of people are just actors, and that's what we're saying psychopaths are. They're just actors, you know, they're not really whole human beings. And they're not. They can mimic emotions and pretend like they care, but they don't. Not unless there's something in it for them. And that's what we always have to remember. I gave the example of Jake the Muss in Once Were Warriors. Perfectly capable of fighting, and he wants to fight to impress a girl, but when he's not impressing her for his own sexual desires, he couldn't care less. His own son got beaten up and he couldn't care less. It's not my problem, the boy needs to toughen up, you know. When his own daughter kills herself because she was abused by one of his mates, he doesn't listen to anyone. He never regarded her very highly. He let people speak badly to her and his own wife, which to me a good human being doesn't do. And now this is a movie, but I thought it was a great example of a father with antisocial personality disorder. Fearless, yeah. very capable of confrontation, but only when it serves his needs. You know, he's perfectly willing to go on the dole. He doesn't have any shame about that. It's basically, why should I do anything, you know? Why should I care? I'm getting free money. And you see, he just uses his time to drink and fight. Doesn't contribute anything to anyone, you know? Doesn't care either, he's not ashamed of it. I thought it was a great example of a man, anyway, with antisocial personality disorder, psychopathy. He has no empathy whatsoever. Even when he finds out that his daughter killed herself because Uncle Bully, played by Cliff Curtis, great actor, brilliant in The Dark Horse, Kia ora whānau. Gotta love the Kiwi accent. But Tamara Morrison does a great job playing him. And me and my brother said we thought that he was a very lovable character before, and then we realised, oh, he's a bastard. He's called a muss because he's a mussel farmer. See him opening up mussels, and New Zealand has a big fishing community, especially in Auckland, where there's a lot of Polynesian people, which Maori people are. They're the native people, and people forget about them. So, you know, it talks about socio-economic environments and how poverty leads to violence. But when you see Uncle Bully being confronted, you know, because of what he did, the mother, his wife is upset that her daughter's dead. So are the brothers. They're all upset that their sister is dead. But Jake just gets angry. That's always his go-to, is just anger. And he beats the living shit out of Uncle Bully when he finds out. But it's not, I'm upset that my daughter's killed herself. It's blind rage, you know what I mean? I thought it was very well done anyway. Kiwi movies are very good. They're underrated. But I thought they did an excellent job of really honing in. You know, he expects his meals to be cooked for him and everything. He contributes nothing. He only comes to his wife and pretends that he loves her when he wants sex off her. He tells her how pretty she is, but also takes lumps out of her. Beats the living shit out of her, you know? Yeah, nasty stuff, isn't it? I know. Why would you want to be like that, you know? Because that's a good example. But in another movie that I watched that I think is, it's based on a true story. I don't know if Jake the Muss is based on a true person, or Once Were Warriors. Good boy, you alright? It's a movie I really like, and one that you probably wouldn't expect me to like, but it's Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder. Plays Susanna Kaysen, who was a real person, and it's based on her life. She was hospitalised after attempting suicide. She had borderline personality disorder, something which I have traits of, but psychiatrists have said I don't have the full thing. I just meet certain criteria, but not all, for the full diagnosis, which is fun. But she's promiscuous, you know, and she's sleeping around. She comes across Lisa Rowe, played by Angelina Jolie, who was a diagnosed sociopath, you know. She's always escaping. She's been in the institute for years, never getting out, always escapes, then comes back. She's no remorse, and she seems to rule the roost, you know. That's the thing, they're always leaders. Now, sociopath and psychopath are both antisocial personality disorder, but she's not very subtle. She's good at manipulating people, but I don't think it's a good idea. I'd love to know if that's what they do in real life now. Just putting someone who is highly manipulative and predatory in nature in with a group of people who are severely mentally ill with things like schizophrenia, depression and autism. Because this was in the 60s, you know. Can't imagine that was a very good idea. It's basically just like putting a load of lambs in with lions. They probably love me saying that. Check out this now. Yeah, look at that. That's lovely. Oh, there you go. But doesn't it seem kind of like putting predators in with the prey? You know, people who can't even get out of bed, or is a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and she cuts herself and was abused by her dad. Lisa escapes with Susanna, and Susanna didn't really have the idea of squatting and staying there rent free, but Lisa certainly did. She was willing to use whatever she could. And when, I think, what was it, Daisy, that was the name, played by Brittany Murphy, R.I.P. I think she battled an eating disorder in real life, so it probably hit home a little much, but she was addicted to laxatives as well. But when she says that her dad loves her and all and is looking after her and bought her the apartment that Lisa and Susanna are staying in now, Lisa holds her arm out and shows her all her puncture wounds, like her self-harm scars, and says, "Oh, is daddy's girl upset? Or you're clearly not doing as well as you say you are. Who are you kidding?" She starts laughing at her and telling her that her dad abused her and takes pleasure in it as well, you know. She's based on a real person. Now, the book is different to the film, so I don't know how accurate that is, but do you want to be like that? And there's a really devastating scene in that where Susanna looks at her and she's horrified because she sees Daisy has hanged herself and slashed her wrists, you know, so really gone for it. You know, it's one thing to hang yourself, but when you're slashing your wrist as well, you're really going for it, making sure that you get the job done, you know. You want to finish yourself off, basically. And looking at it, you're kind of like, oh my god. You're kind of, you know, a tear's brought to your eye. It's not easy to look at. And Susanna just sees her and breaks down in the corner of the room, crying. Just keeps screaming, oh my god, oh my god. And then Lisa comes in, sees her hanging there, and takes money out of her pocket. She checks her for stuff that she can take. Another very good scene. And another scene where you're just kind of shown how there's nothing there. She doesn't care. Girl's just hanged herself and slashed her wrists, and the first thing she's thinking is, how can I take money off her? What can I take from her? So, it's based on a real story. Someone going a bit too fast, but they put the hand up, so they slowed down. Health is good. Like, I'd be terrified if anything happened to him, you know. I'd throw myself in front of a car for him. That's true love, isn't it? She's patting down a girl who's just killed herself for whatever she can take from her. She's already taken her life from her without directly doing it. But she reminded her of a trauma that was enough to push her over the edge. And then she just takes money off her. And Susanna is looking at her, you know, Winona Ryder is looking at Angelina Jolie, and she's saying to her, are you fucking serious? Like, what are you doing? And Lisa's like, come on, we gotta get out of here, let's get what we can. She's just motivated by financial greed. She rules the roost, you know. Everybody is in awe of her because she is able to act with impunity, if you like. There's just nothing there. But another great scene is when Susanna tells her that, and that's near the very end. And Lisa nearly kills herself because Susanna says to her, you're just a hollow shell of a human. Before we get into that, we're back with the sheep. Yeah, you're not hollow shell, you're full of love. Yes, you were. Oh, hello.
Hello. Yeah.
But then Lisa starts getting really upset and distressed because she's forced to look within and she doesn't like what she sees. I thought it was a great scene. Two great movies that one's based on a true story, the other I'm not sure how true it is, but both very well made. And the difference with Girl Interrupted is we know what their diagnoses are, you know, we know what they actually have, which is different to Once We're Warriors, because there's no diagnoses and you can't really base it on anything, you're just speculating. But we do know that Jake's daughter kills herself, that much we see, so she's obviously in severe distress, and she was molested by Uncle Bully, one of Jake's close friends. So it was a nasty scene as well. But in Girl Interrupted, going back to that, and going back to Britannia 1974's question, or not question, but you know, response. Come on, Alf. Oh, good boy.
Oh. Yeah, you coming? Go back.
Good boy. Britannia 1974 says, you know, I wish I was a psychopath so I didn't have to suffer this cruel world. And people wishing they are. There's a character in Girl Interrupted that kind of reminds me of what you said. Cynthia, played by Jill Armentante. I think that's how her name is spelled. It sounds Italian. But she's got severe depression, she's overweight, and when they're reading out the diagnoses, when they say Lisa's a sociopath, Cynthia goes, oh, I'm a sociopath, and Lisa shuts her down and goes, no, you're a dyke. She wants to be, you know, she sees that power and control, you know, that lack of remorse. You know, it's contagious, everybody wants it. It's just interesting to hear her say, I want what she's got. Purely motivated by whatever suits my needs. And I was reading through the comments before a review of the movie. Someone made an interesting point. If anyone's watched Girl Interrupted, let me know. I think it's a great movie. Straight white male, 6'4" Irish, can relate to a movie about mentally ill women in America in the 60s. Some of which are gay. Weirdly enough, wasn't seen as a mental illness for women, but for men it was. Funny, isn't it? Mad. It was just saying as a deviation for women, but for men it was a mental illness, being gay. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Someone said that when Lisa has the cat puppet, so Angelina Jolie has the cat puppet on her hand, she loves it because she's in control of it. Whereas when she meets Daisy's cat, a nice grey cat, she hisses at it, like she goes, shows her teeth, you know. So she only likes things she can control. That's the whole point of it. I thought that was a very good comment. I just really liked it. I can't remember who made it, but I salute you, and I agree with you. Thought it was a very good point. She only feels anything towards something she can control, you know. She manipulates, she's cunning, she's deceptive. At the end, I think we're left kind of feeling sorry for her, but should we? I mean, she's the reason Daisy killed herself. She reminded her and tortured her with the fact that she was abused by her own father, who she admired. And then she steals from her when she's literally hanging from the ceiling after killing herself. She takes money out of her pockets. Not someone I'd feel sympathy for. At the end of the movie, she's given loads of sedatives and strapped to a bed, and Susanna, Winona Ryder's character, wishes her well. It's like they part on good terms, but you can't help but remember what she did, you know. She's just not a good human being, so there's reminders for you there. There's nothing there alright, that she can't control. She's only interested in what she can manipulate. And everybody wants to be like her. I guess because there's an interesting criteria that I was looking at before where it's split into two symptoms, and it's a reason why they were thinking are antisocial and narcissistic personality disorder, even mental illnesses, because they're ego syntonic, which means that you feel good with them. You know, you don't feel bad. Ego dystonic would be major depressive disorder or schizophrenia, where you feel awful, you want to end your own life. Borderline personality disorder, which is why I find it weird that it's in the same cluster, because it's very ego dystonic. High levels of suicide and self-harm with that. 70% of people have at least attempted or they self-harm, and I think 15%, it's as high as that, have killed themselves. So when I heard I had traits of that and autism, I was very worried. But you feel awful, so you want to get help. These people don't want to get help because they don't feel awful. They're never in the wrong in their eyes, you know. So it's food for thought, you know. Maybe that would feel nice, but as someone with a conscience, Britannia 1974, think of all the people you'd hurt. That's what I do. Don't want to hurt any more people. So I'm grateful I do have a conscience. And as I always say, I don't think anyone is beyond help, but they have to want it and they have to seek it. And they have to admit what they've done in the past is wrong. But how do we know we're not being manipulated? We don't. Alright, so I'll leave it on that. I just thought it was an interesting comment, guys, and one that I wanted to share with you all. Alright, have a great week.